Hey everyone, Gary with Peacekeeper's Armory here to show off a personal project. This is going to be probably long-winded, so I do have a couple shorter videos that just show off everything if you want to go to those. Otherwise, if you like detail, then this is for you. This is an OxWorks Revan inspired hilt from Knights of the Old Republic video game. As far as I can tell and everything I found, it is as close to the in-game model of the game. In-game model of the hilt that you can get. Vector is the screen or the username for the guy off of the Rebel Armory. He puts out a bunch of like clan style hilts every once in a while, about runs a 10, really good price. I always wanted one since I saw it, but never had the opportunity to buy it. I got one second hand about a year and a half ago, and I've been designing and working on the chassis ever since in my time in between other commission builds. So until this day, I didn't have a personal working saber for quite a while, so it was nice to get this up and running. So it's a bit tricky. It's an inch in diameter from the emitter to about here, and then it's 1.13 inches inner diameter to the end. So not a whole lot of room for a lot of fancy stuff. So it did take, like I said, I spent about a year and a half on it. A lot of 3D modeling on a Fusion 360 to figure out what I can do. A lot of different iterations went through this. I initially started with wanting to design the crystal chamber to mimic the Clone Wars, the Padawan build, which is the only time we ever see really an on-screen representation of it. So I started off like that, pretty much as a recreation of that as I could, and as space limitations applied, I changed things, and then I decided aesthetically I wanted more LEDs and blinkies and whatnot, so it mutated a lot from there. So first things first, I scrapped the original screws. They were a lot smaller, and this is actually now a switch. So I made a plunger. It's locked into place so it stays in the hilt, but as you can see, it's got a nice click feedback there, and then this is a retention thumb screw for the chassis inside. Now this is I machined these out, knurled them and everything from scratch. So those turned out pretty nice considering I haven't really knurled before. Those knurlings turned out pretty good. I did machine down the ID a lot of, or I'm sorry, not the ID, the outer diameter of these rings, cleaned up some of the stuff. It was a good hilt, some machining marks here and there, and especially on the inside near the pommel, which I cleaned up and actually had to widen for what I'll show you later. And then it was just over an inch, so I actually, not milled, but bored it out much greater than an inch for the inside, and then made a sleeve, put that in there, and that's secured in place. So now this is pretty much exactly an inch ID for that. And then yeah, just in terms of trying to get everything smooth, not smooth, but flush. There was a couple other holes you can kind of see where there's a hole there, which I sealed up pretty good, as best as I could anyways. So stuff like that. The original retention screw is, let's see if I can find it, right there. So I filled that up, and now the retention screw is actually hidden right there. So now you can put the blade in and tighten that down, and then screw this back down so it's a nice hidden retention screw. So here's the pommel. This is part of the chassis, so the actual hilt is all the way through. You can kind of see a little bit of a gap there. So that turned out pretty nice. Cover tech, one of my old cover techs that I kept with number of significance on there, etched in there. That'll probably stay with me. If I make another hilt and I sell this one for whatever reason, then this will stay. Anywho, so we can screw it here. We got the chassis. So like I said, this went through a lot of iterations to get everything to fit. It's incredibly tight all inside here. You can see the crystal is nice and open, which is what I was going for. That's kind of a remnant from the Clone Wars version. It did have 4 posts instead of 3, but for a little feature I have later, it was important to have 3 for spacing. This is 3D printed in brass. I designed it. I designed everything on this, and I either 3D printed it or machined it. So you can see the brass. That was a real pain to get the tubes to fit and everything. This whole crystal chamber, I probably machined it about 5 times just because things were not quite right and they're off and nothing aligned. So it was really difficult to do that. So I was really happy when I finally finished that out. So the reasoning for this is simply wire passage. So these poles, they're threaded. So on the inside there's a hole drilled and threaded, and then let's see if you can see it there. No, can't really see it, but there's screws that screw in this way on the pole, so it's nice and rigid. I mean, it's not going anywhere. That little sound is just from the chassis inside here, which still isn't going anywhere, but it's a unbelievably solid design. Then let's see, so we got the sleeve here, some nice copper and aluminum accent rods, working green and red LED, a nice window here with some mesh, and then a NeoPixel strip in there, and then a small little hidden kill switch. So that is actually a switch that I managed to fit the Profi board, as well as I forget what it's called, the momentary to latching converter. So this momentary switch actually is the kill switch for the board. So nothing's turning on, there's no power going to the board itself. Very, very, very small drain on the converter itself, but it's completely negligible. So that's nice. So let's just turn that on. Turns on the board. This is a battery level indicator. I'm not quite happy with it yet, but it's good for where it's at. Pretty much the only changes I'm going to make from now on are all configuration, but I have it close enough that it's usable, and I wanted to show it off. So it shows that it's not quite fully charged. It'd have one more LED, brighter green if it was, and as it goes down in charge, then it'll go closer to red, and only that one will be showing. Simple animation for these two: red steady as it's off, and then green is in flashing for standby to be on. If you turn it on, then that switches. You see my standard. If you've seen any of my other videos, that animation standard for that, I just muted it. It's on now. So when you hit, blaster block or whatever, it's pretty much the same from what I have for other stuff. Here's lockup, and that's pretty much that. I have the crystal mimicking the blade itself, and that's pretty much it for that. So I'll turn this off. So the main thing that I wanted to do for this, again, as many of you will know, I did the blind lightsaber with the detachable emitter where the board detects whether the emitter is attached. I did that for this, except instead of the emitter, it's the actual crystal. So this is a completely removable crystal, and the board detects when the crystal is in there or not and changes it. So as you see, you turn this on, full saber function. Grab the crystal right here. This is why I couldn't have 4 posts, because there wasn't enough space to fit fingers in there. So pull the crystal down and out. The bottom chamber locks into place here. So this is spring, I don't want to say powered, but it's a spring right there. LEDs in the bottom of this. So that little lip there catches on there, so it locks that into place. Crystal is out, and as you heard that sound, it is now knows. You can see this has changed. It's not the battery level indicator. That it is not in. It is not a fully functioning saber. So I have a slow build up LED just to show white. So if you did put the crystal in there, it would be white, like a configuration. Drop that. This is pretty much the same. The only real, again, still messing with the settings, but I changed that to go through like a configuration. The background sound, if you're savvy with Knights of the Republic, is the ambient noise in the Ebon Hawk. So the bass sound for this is root core. I think Cyber Design or something like that. I forget the name. I never know the creator. And I replaced the hum, so there's no swings or anything because that doesn't make sense. And I just put that as a background because it sounded really techy, and I thought it was a nice homage to the hilt itself. And then also I have a little calibration style, not calibration, but power cycle thing for that. So turn this back off. Power slowly fades away from there. Put the crystal back in its cradle. Pop it up. And now it's a fully functioning saber. No button presses, no font changes, style, or anything like that. It's crystal in and ready to go. So something that took a lot to design, a lot of time to fit. I mean, the spring, the wire channel, the space between, so it gets the right pressure. So just to show how it works, well, I guess I can just take this out. So as I showed you, the spring's in the bottom, the switch is in the top. So if you just push this here, turn that off, you hear the switch. So the active, passive mode, whatever you want to call it, I guess that's contradicting, but the standard mode is there's pressure on the switch from the crystal, and then it is a functioning saber. Once the pressure is removed, then it goes back into the other state. So that's how I managed to do that. Again, lots of trial and error to get all the machined pieces to be the exact right distance. You wanted it tight enough so that the crystal's not going to bounce out or shake free, and loose enough that, or the spring soft enough that you can pull it out without having to without having to strain yourself or accidentally hurt the saber. So I'll leave that out for now. Next thing, the battery access. Now, this was designed with Profi V3 in mind. As many of you are aware, with all the chip shortage, it's going to be quite some time before that comes out. And I really wanted this to be functioning. So I put a V2.2 in there. The reason it was designed with the 3 in mind is you can see this locks. So the screw, as long as you don't screw it all the way out, will lock into place. And then you can screw this down if you want. Switch doesn't work because the switch is more right here. So there's the USB access right there. So I can plug in to access, change the config, add, remove fonts, whatever you want to do. And ideally, once the V3 comes out, it will also charge the saber. So that's what that's designed for. Unfortunately, it doesn't do it right now. Another 3D printed brass piece is right there. It's a wire coverage. The wires that come up through here go near the Profi board. So I'll just show off that now. I guess I didn't need to take that all the way out, but so like I said, that stays in place. You can see that there. Here's the Dimitri stock, the V, I think it's the 3, yeah, the newest pixel pins. Activation switch, channel and holes for the retention screw, and then the Profi board. One of the cleaner installs, if I'm allowed to toot my own horn. Getting everything to fit was challenging, or I should say getting all the fitment was challenging. A lot of wires that are going underneath here, as well as the extension that allows a USB to plug into that guy right there. And down here, like I said, so now that you can't charge it this way, I needed a way to access the battery that wasn't annoying, as well as being secure. So instead of having a screw here, because if you bring it anywhere, having a screwdriver to do that, I mean, granted, you're gonna have an Allen screw for that, but still, I didn't like scratching all this every time my screwdriver slipped to get it, and then you lose the very small screw that you need for this. So it's all magnetic. You can see there's no rattle. I mean, it's not going anywhere. So you grab the brass piece right here, and then you with your fingers, and then you grab this with your palm, pop that off, and there's that. Now I was trying to clean up some glue for the battery, or for the magnets, and when I was using the glue remover, it completely discolored the black chassis. So sucks for me, but it is what it is. I mean, you never really see that anyway. So here you can kind of see more of the brass that I machined for this. One of my batteries or one of the battery covers on my battery. Another wire, so the wires come up, they go all the way underneath this battery sled, pop up here, and then go through there. I don't have anything to take the battery out, but I mean, it's a 3D printed sled. I have this little spacer here because I found that I guess the spring on the contact I'm using isn't very good. So if you hit it downwards like that, it'll very briefly lose connection. So I printed a little spacer. So you just need to take the spacer out, roll the battery out, and then, let me see. I don't know if I can do that with what I have. I don't think I can. Oh, here we go. So here's spacer, it goes around the spring, and then put a little piece of tape right there because the contactor's hitting that, sparking, don't want that. And then there you can see the wires are hidden underneath. I just put a little piece of tape there. And you can see that. So these are actually sitting in the plastic chassis. So so these two screws remove it. Obviously I can't do that with all the wires, but I couldn't slide this off without that. So basically saying that these are in there permanently and I won't be able to unless I completely rewire everything, and well, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So put this guy back in there, put this guy back over there. And you can see, to focus, maybe. No, can't get it to focus on it. Oh well, you get the gist. Six magnets, speaker, self-contained in this unit. Now 1.13. So the wall from here to here of this aluminum is only 0.02, I think. It's incredibly thin. I did a lot of practice on other parts to see if it would be viable. The circular or cylindrical nature of it keeps it strong enough. I had to make this, I think, twice because while I was trying to clean up something over here, I did a small pass and it made it too thin, and you could see the warping of the metal. So I managed to get it just right on the second or third one. And then this is a separate piece, which is glued into place once I made sure the speaker and everything works. So speaker's nice and hidden. You never have to see it. You don't have to worry about accidentally pushing it, which I somehow always do in damaged speakers. So I'm glad for that, especially when you put it down on that for whatever reason. Now the grossness in here, just showing all my flaws as well. I tried to bore out just to make it a little bit smoother, and I just had too much chatter. I had the boring bar too far, and I was trying to basically do more than I could, my machine would allow. So I smoothed that out. Before the magnets, it rattled a little bit, but now with the magnets in there, it's nice and steady. So turned out good. I'm happy. Put this guy in here. Oops. There we go. Didn't put that all the way in there. Gotta show. And this, in case you didn't know, this is just Arabesh for PKA, or Peacekeeper's Armory. I have a bunch of these, which I include in my installs now. So, and this still wants to pop out. There we go. Boom. Not going anywhere. Okay, so I went over the crystal, I went over all of that. I believe that's pretty much it. Again, I'm gonna have a couple short videos, one just showing off everything without me talking, and one just showing the crystal for that, since that's pretty much what I designed this whole thing around. So just kind of putting everything back. Put the crystal in there. Nice there. Put this in there. Got good feedback for that. And going anywhere. Turn it on. Again, that sound is also from Nasty Old Republic. So, thought I'd keep some cool little, I'll say Easter eggs in there. So yeah, that's the hilt. Finally got one I can use for myself. And hope you guys stay tuned for all the Blind Knights that will be coming out here in the next few months, as well as my final MB Sabers Metal Master chassis. That'll be first, and then the Blind Knights. So I'll be busy for a while. Hope to see you guys on the next one, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one.